Just off the coast of Auckland City is Motutapu Island. After a $3 million operation funded by the Department of Conservation, it's now believed to be the only pest-free pastoral farm in New Zealand. The challenge now for Rick Braddock is to maintain the ongoing commercial pastoral business as well as its pest-free status alongside the other activities on the island.
Motutapu's been a pastoral farm since around 1840, purchased from the Maori, Ngāi ki Tamaki. The island total area is 1,540 hectares, and of that we farm around 1,250 hectares, or approximately 3,000 acres of grass. So it's a reasonable sized pastoral farm. We're very fortunate to have deep, rich volcanic ash sitting on top of clay, so unlike the other Hauraki Gulf Islands, which are much hungrier and clay-like, this is very suitable for pastoral farming and responds very well to traditional fertilisers. Our relationship with the Department of Conservation is great, and pastoral farming will endure on this island. It's been here since 1840. It is a part of the heritage of Motutapu. Because Maori resided here for 600 years before Europeans, there are many archaeological sites, and pasture as a landscape is seen as the appropriate medium on which to maintain those archaeological sites. I think it'll continue to be a viable farm. That's relative to what the expectations of the farmer are in terms of a rental and the contribution to upgrading the property. So issues around building maintenance, power supply, roading are all issues which need to be dealt with between landlord and tenant. The longer the tenure for a tenant, the easier it is to amortise costs of capital improvements. From a physical side of things, access via barge means that we really only deal in barge loads of cattle, which are 3 units at a time, so 1,000 sheep or 100 to 150 cattle. That limits us. There's additional cost associated with that. And then being a public reserve and a conservation estate, that brings with it the requirements and recognition that we are only one part of a group of stakeholders operating on this island. Our general stocking policy out here is a combination of beef and sheep. We traditionally run around 3,000 composite ewes and bring in additional lambs for finishing through the winter. It's a good winter finishing property. We don't have frosts out here. We grow grass right through the winter, and then we supplement that by buying in between 1,000 and 1,500 cattle, normally buying them in as yearlings and taking them through to finishing size. So at the moment we've destocked, we've slaughtered our lambs before they cut their teeth, and we've got about 1,200 cattle on, which are all nearing a finishing size. Lambs don't do well through the summer, so we tend not to carry them through the summer, and we'll buy in again in the autumn once our feed situation improves further. We don't have the ability to bring in supplements as part of the biosecurity on the island. We prefer an all-grass farming system. One of the most exciting things that's happened in recent times here is that DOC have undertaken a full pest eradication. So for a farm of this type, I think we're probably the only pest-free farm in New Zealand, completely pest-free. No mice, no rats, no cats, no ferrets, no rabbits, no hedgehogs, no possums. And that means that as the ecological restoration continues and there is reintroduction of endangered species, we'll be farming and continuing to farm sheep and cattle, our traditional ways of farming, in amongst those indigenous flora and fauna. To me, that's exciting because that's what New Zealand is all about growing and producing food in a natural environment. Associated with that pest eradication was a requirement that we destocked completely. So we either sold or slaughtered all of the animals that we had, destocked for around 6 months, and then last October began stocking again. So that caused us quite a bit of upheaval, but we think for the long-term benefit of this island, it was something that we were more than willing to participate in. And as you can see today, we've got these pastures back under control and we're back in action, and the big difference being it's completely pest-free. We're seeing more and more visitors here. The island was closed for defence purposes through the war days. and from the 1960s and 70s onwards it has been expanded. So there were public camping grounds which will take hundreds of people camping through the summer, and then at the old outdoor education, the old barracks, which is now an outdoor education camp, that takes around 12,000 school children a year. So most days we have hundreds of people wandering through the farm. We can have issues around gates being left open, but again, with the help of the Department of Conservation, we're building things like these stiles here, so we realise the issues and we have management policies in place to overcome them.
It's important for us that the farm is an economic unit. It's got to be successful in its own right. If the farm is not successful, then the island is less likely to be successful. We need grassland to be on this island. It's important for us. We want a mosaic of different vegetation types to be able to introduce a range of different species. Some of them will be grassland birds. We want the island to be as sustainable as we can, whether it be through soil and farming or through energy. Now what we have here is the inside of a solar energy system. It's the largest off-grid system in New Zealand, which we're very proud of. It's a 67,000 kilowatt setup, and it'll produce 70% of the island's energy needs. They're so close to Auckland, so much opportunity. We think we are providing great opportunity in terms of business, in terms of biodiversity, visitation, tourism, etc. And for us, it's an important part of Auckland's economy.
A decision was made to eradicate pests from Rangitoto and Motutapu back in '96. They're big islands, there's a huge range of habitats here, the diversity of habitats is huge, and so the potential for ecosystem and species restoration is absolutely enormous. These islands are right on Auckland's front doorstep, so whatever happens here is in their hearts and minds, and the opportunities for them to get involved in conservation and island restoration as it happens are huge. This was a big operation with 7 pest species spread across nearly 4,000 hectares. It was certainly one of the most complex operations the department's ever undertaken. The Department of Conservation has a really good record internationally for eradicating pests off islands and restoring islands, but this was certainly right up there. In terms of scale, these islands were a world first for targeting 5 of the pest species targeted. We started with 3 species of rodents: mice, Norway rats and ship rats. We had stoats, cats, rabbits and hedgehogs. We're at the tail end of the eradication program. We're not in a position to say that the operation's been successful yet, but the evidence is mounting to show that these islands are pest-free. We expected changes, obviously, but never as fast as they've occurred. 3 native bird species have returned to the island since the operation began. Bellbirds, kakariki and brown teal have returned, and bellbirds and kakariki are now breeding here and can be seen by people visiting the island.
I've been involved with pastoral farming throughout New Zealand for 30 years, and this would be the most attractive farm to farm of any that I've been involved with. So although there are restrictions, I would add that it's a privilege to farm this island. It's a productive pastoral farm. It is economic in terms of its size and its scale, and I'm very keen to see that continue.
This program was made with funding from New Zealand On Air.